Morning, everybody. Welcome. We're so delighted that you've joined us this morning, highlighting Indian cuisine during Celebrating What Unites Us, our virtual cooking series, keeping us connected, coming together during these very challenging times. On behalf of the Friends of Armenian Heritage Park on the Greenway, I'd like to take a moment during this time of Thanksgiving and the start of the holiday season to thank our two extraordinary collaborators partnering with us to offer this monthly series. Thank you so much, Age Friendly Boston and Oldways. The opportunity to collaborate brings us such great joy, and for all of us to virtually come together, celebrating what unites and connects us. When it's safe to do so, we look forward to welcoming you all to Armenian Heritage Park. And that would give us great pleasure. Now it is with great pleasure to introduce and to welcome to each of you and introduce to all of you, Hannah Depin from Oldways. Enjoy.
So much, Barbara, and thank you to all of you for joining us this morning. All of us here at Oldways are so proud to be part of this collaboration with Age Friendly Boston and Armenian Heritage Park on the Greenway. Oldways is a food and nutrition nonprofit helping people live healthier, happier lives. So it's a joy for us to learn traditional recipes alongside all of you as part of this series. And today we get to talk all about Indian cuisine with Madhu Gadia. Before we get started, I want to remind you that you'll find a recording of today's demo on oldwayspt.org and by searching Oldways on YouTube. You'll also find today's recipes in your email inbox shortly after the demo, so you can recreate them at home. And finally, we're going to play a pre-recorded cooking segment with Madhu, and then she'll join us live to answer your questions. So please, as you're watching, type your questions in the chat, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. Thank you so much, and now I'm happy to introduce Andrea Burns from Age Friendly Boston.
Hannah, and good morning, everyone. My name is Andrea Burns, Director of Age Friendly Boston, an initiative within the Age Strong Commission at the City of Boston. The goal of Age Friendly Boston is to make Boston a great city to grow older in, increasing opportunities for a healthy, meaningful life. This series is one very significant way for us to do this, as how we eat has a great deal of impact on our health and well-being. This program will be re-aired on Boston City TV Monday through Friday from 9 to 10, and on Boston Neighborhood Network throughout the week. The community TV channel is now Xfinity Channel 23, RCN Channel 83, and FiOS Channel 2160. Now I would like to introduce Madhu Gadia, who will lead a class on Indian cuisine. She is the author of The Indian Vegan Kitchen, New Indian Cuisine, and the founder of Cuisine of India. Welcome, Chef Gadia. Take it away.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I am so delighted that we are doing this. I have done live cooking demos for a long time, but today we're going to do this virtually, and therefore I can meet a lot of you and share the recipes with lots of you throughout the country. So thank you again for having me.
Thank you so much. We're going to play Madhu's demo now.
I'm Madhu Gadia, and I'm an author of 2 cookbooks, New Indian Home Cooking and The Indian Vegan Kitchen, and I will show you them. I'm a dietitian and a certified diabetes educator, and I have been teaching Indian cooking probably 25 years now. I have a website called cuisineofindia.com, and I have a blog called Cooking with Madhu. So today we're going to make 3 things. We're going to make basmati rice, and we're going to make pink lentils with ginger, and we're going to make a dal, and then we're going to make spinach and potatoes. So you're in for a treat. All right, we're going to wash the rice. okay? And I want to rub it while I'm washing it, okay? Just like this, okay? And I'm just going to drain it using my hand and wash it again. Okay, one last time. And so I wash it in 2 to 3 waters. Okay. Once the water is relatively clean, I'm just going to let it soak, okay? All right, so the rice is soaking. My next thing is the dal. And I have a 3/4 cup of pink lentils. Okay, so same thing, we're gonna wash it about 3 times. And I just got these pink lentils from a regular, from a co-op store in Ames. You can, which they sell it in bulk in most stores anymore. They're easy to get. By rubbing it, and you're sort of releasing the, you can see kind of how dark the water is. Hold on, let me see. You see, it was even dirtier earlier. And I'm gonna, one more time. So I washed it 3 times. I'm now just gonna soak it. It's much cleaner. Again, we're draining the water just by hand is fine. It doesn't have, you can strain it if you prefer. I tend to just use my hand, it's convenient. All right, so this is all good to go. All right, so we have 3/4 cup of lentils, and to which I'm gonna add water. Okay, so to which I'm gonna add a tablespoon of ginger. And I basically took some ginger, I peeled it, and I use a grater or I finely chop it. Whichever one you like. I just don't like big pieces of ginger. I love ginger, and I love the benefits of ginger. You know, it's good for digestion. And so I'm gonna add a tablespoon of ginger. All right. My spice box, and I'm going to use that as easier to put my spices in. So I'm going to put some turmeric, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, okay? And you can add less salt if you'd like, but I find that salt really balances the beans. But if for any health reason you need to cut down on your salt, of course, it's not an issue. The important, we're just going to bring it to boil. Oh, by the way, I do need a cup of tomatoes. So I have a tomato. Okay. I need about a cup of tomatoes in the dal. So we'll add it now. I'm just going to add the tomatoes to the dal too and let them just simmer. And one thing you want to remember is you can cook it in pressure cooker, but it will get mushy. So I prefer to cook this dal in a pan. There is the brown lentils, which you're all very familiar with. And these are the pink lentils, which are basically, I'm sure you know that, and if you don't, it's just basically lentils that brown lentils or any lentils that have been husked. So once you husk it or remove the husk, you get a pink inside, and it's also split. So the pink lentils cook twice as fast as the brown lentils. So in India, we eat a lot of beans, the whole beans, and we also eat split and husked beans. But that's another session. So my lentils have started, and I'm going to, for now, move on to my second thing. Same thing. I like to just drain it with my hand. It doesn't have to be perfectly drained. I need 2 cups of water. For a cup of rice, use a quart pan. So if you have 2 cups of rice, you want to use a 2-quart pan. And if you have 4 cups of rice, you want to use at least a 4-quart pan. You don't want the rice to be stuck together. And the wider the pan, it'll also work better rather than cooking in a narrow soup pan. You want this, a wider pan. All right, this is just a cup of rice. So I'm actually going to boil my water first. And once the water is boiled, then I will add my rice. It's just something that I have been doing for years. And this is how I learned it. And I feel like it really makes the rice separate. Again, if you don't have time, you can, of course, still wash your rice, but then it's not going to be, if you don't have time to soak it, it's okay. All right, now, as you can see, my pan, my dal is boiling. All right, I'm going to bring this, show you a little bit here. All right, and my water is also boiling. But once my dal is boiling, I'm going to turn the heat down. I want it to simmer, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and close the lid and let it simmer for a good 15 to 20 minutes, all right? Now, also, my water is boiling, so I'm going to add rice to it. This is why I love a stove with 4 burners, because everything in India we cook is on stovetop, and it cooks quickly, efficiently. It's costs less. So, but having 4 stoves means I can do 3 to 4 things at a time. All right. So my next thing I'm going to make is, now this is going to take 20 minutes, the dal, and the rice is going to take about 15 minutes. So we have enough time to now make potatoes and spinach. For the day. All right, so for this potatoes and spinach, I have bought a 10-ounce pre-washed spinach, baby spinach, but I'm still gonna cut it. Some of these leaves aren't so baby. And not to mention all the big stems. I like to remove the big stems and, and then just coarsely chop it. I want them in strips. Doesn't take very long. In the meantime, I am going to go ahead and turn on my stove so that my pan starts heating. All right. Now, when it comes to a meal, whether I'm a dietitian or growing up, I always had a vegetable with my meal. And I'm sort of, maybe not always, but here in my house, there's always a vegetable with the meal. Okay. It's easy to do. So here we go. We're going to cut the spinach. If you have baby spinach, maybe you can get away with not chopping it, but that's rare. Smaller pieces. All right. Now, if you don't have fresh spinach, which of course is so readily available now, you can use frozen spinach. And I have done that. Actually, in my first book, I wrote it as frozen spinach because cleaning spinach and cutting spinach used to take quite a bit of time. And as a working mother, it wasn't always convenient, right? Or I should say frozen was very convenient. It was always there. And my family loves this vegetable, aloo palak or spinach and potatoes. Simple. All right, my spinach is ready, and I need about 1 medium potato. Now, in India, at least in North India, where I grew up, we eat a lot of potatoes. In potatoes, I grew up with my mother putting potatoes in everything. It's green beans and potatoes, it's spinach and potatoes, it's cauliflower and potatoes. You know, you're familiar with aloo gobi, and it adds its own flavor, but and of course, it's a bulking agent. So if you're feeding a big family, it's great because spinach turns into nothing. And so it's kind of a both thing, a great extender of the vegetable as well as has its own flavor. A lot of kids don't like spinach, but with potatoes, they love the spinach. Or, you know, it works so the whole family can enjoy it. All right, so I've added just a teaspoon of oil. You can add a little bit more, about a teaspoon and a half. And I'm going to start with my spice box, right? So I'm going to add half a teaspoon of cumin seeds. And I always keep actually a spoon in my hand, in my spice box, because it works really well. All right, so we're just going to I'm going to let the potatoes cook for a few minutes so that they can be brown a little bit. I didn't always used to do that, but I find that it's so helpful to let the potatoes be coated with oil and just a little lightly brown. Doesn't take very long. All right. Oh, my rice. You could see the rice is starting to stand straight. It's almost there. And my dal is also looking good. I'm going to just stir it a little bit here. Okay, as you can see, the dal is probably done, or the pink lentils, they're cooked through, but I want them to be softer. I want them to fall apart, okay? So we'll just let everything cook. Now I can close the lid. All right, by closing the lid, they'll continue to simmer, okay? In another couple minutes, I'm just gonna turn it off. Because this is a nice non-stick pan, as you can see, the potatoes are starting to have a little color to them, right? And it's just what I want, a little bit. Then they don't tend to fall apart as much. Okay. I'm actually gonna show you this here. See how the rice is all standing straight? The one thing I'm gonna do is take 1 grain of rice. Just take 1 grain of rice, okay? And if I put it and then I squish it with my finger, there is no grain in there. You know, like the rice grain? I know it's done, and I'm gonna just turn it off. My potatoes are just where I want them to be. Okay, just a teeny light color. Okay, Now we're going to add our full 10 ounces of chopped spinach. You see that? As you know, spinach wilts and turns into teeny bit. All right. And I'm going to season it with turmeric. You know that turmeric is a great antiseptic and an anti-inflammatory, and we add that to most dishes, and it's great. Now we're going to add some salt. Salt will not only just flavor it, but also it will help the vegetables reach their own juices, right? That's a couple teaspoons. Ground coriander or coriander powder. Okay, and some cayenne pepper. As you can see, cayenne is the only thing that adds heat to this dish. Now, for you, you may just decide you don't want cayenne. It's totally fine. Or you like it really hot, add more. And I think I'm good. And I'm actually going to just a teeny bit, as there doesn't seem to be any room for it to move. So, move it slowly. I'm going to let it sit here for a few minutes. And it'll cook in its own juices. All right, one thing, as much as I say I wouldn't use a pressure cooker for this, if I was in a hurry, you can use an Instapot, or you can use your pressure cooker and pressure it for only a couple minutes, okay? Because it will cook so fast, but then you don't have to wait 15, 20 minutes. But for me, it's not an issue because, you know, I've got the rice, the dal, the vegetables, they're all gonna be done by the time I'm ready to eat, if all three will be cooked, right? So here we go. And actually even the spinach will catch more flavor as it simmers. And we didn't have to add any water. It's cooking in its own juice. All the nutrients are in there. And just gonna turn it down a little bit and let it cook. So there are two kinds of, when you think of Indian cuisine, you think of curry. And when you think of curry, you might think of a yellow sauce, something that's in a yellow sauce. But you will see that, first of all, I didn't use any curry powder. And second of all, everything is not soupy. Okay, my vegetable is going to be dry and as a side dish. And my dal or my lentils, the pink lentils, are going to be soupy. So I have a combination of soupy and dry, and it's a great combination with rice. My dal is almost there. You know, it can depend a lot on the batch of lentils you get. Some just fall apart right away, and some just take a little longer. The reason I know it's not ready is because it's kind of watery at the top. The lentils and the water to sort of just all merge into one consistency. All right, let's check what's happened here. And turn this off. You can just see how much better it looks. And the potatoes are definitely done, right? It's sort of falling apart, just what I want. Okay, so just close this. This is done. Put this out of my way. The potatoes are done. And now, the last thing you have to do is season the dal. Now you see the dal has really come to one consistency. If you find that you're having a hard time getting it like this, don't be afraid to use this little hand mixer, okay? I have used it before. Some dals just take longer than others. And I'm just gonna spin it a couple times. And actually, in this one, that's all it took to even get better, okay? Like I said, I want the water, and we never use any broth. You want the water and the lentils to come together, and they have. All right, I'm just gonna let it simmer for a little bit. My last thing to do is to season it. All Indian households have what we call a tadka bowl or tadka pan, or chalk ladle. But instead of this, I'm going to use a little small fry pan today. All right. So I'm going to turn on my stove, heat up my pan, and all I need is coriander powder, cayenne pepper, and some lemon juice and cumin seeds. Now, you can use ghee. Okay, I have some ghee, or you can use oil if you're vegan. Of course, this meal is all vegan, but Indians use a lot of ghee or clarified butter. So I'm just going to use a teaspoon of ghee in here, and then I'm going to use a teeny bit of asafoetida. So asafoetida is a vegetable gum which is grown on a tree, or gum of a tree, and it is a great, use it in almost all beans or cruciferous vegetables because it reduces gas. Use a little bit of the asafoetida, sprinkling, I can smell it, and then I'm going to use some cumin seeds and turn it off, okay, because it'll burn otherwise. Okay, hold on a second. And some coriander and cayenne, the last thing, because, and again, if you don't want cayenne, you have kids eating it, don't add any cayenne. All right, and it's good to go. So typically, I would just add this to the dal by, that's the word, that's the sound we're looking for. Called chop. Okay, I've added that to the dal, and my dal is ready. Okay, turn off the dal. Now my whole meal is ready. So I'm just going to add lemon, lime, whatever you have. I prefer lime most of the time, but either one is fine. Needs a couple teaspoons of lime, so I'm adding that now. All right, we're good to go. All right, so I have my rice, I have my spinach, and I have my dal. All right. Oh, I need a bowl. Now, Indians are very particular about their bowls, or katoris as we call them. We often don't like anything to touch. And so here is my bowl of dal. Okay. I also have a bowl of plain yogurt. We often eat our meals with yogurt. Again, if you're vegan, you can skip the yogurt. A lot of people don't like yogurt, but I'm pretty used to it. Most Indians like yogurt with their meal. And you just add a little sprinkle of salt, and that is consumed as salty. All right, so I have my yogurt. All right, I'm gonna take some spinach. All right, and I'm gonna do some rice. All right. So one more thing I wanted to say was, with the meal, there's often served a crudité. So just a couple slices of cucumbers, maybe a couple carrots, maybe some onion, piece of tomato, and I added some green chilies. And a lot of people like their food to be really hot and like a little green bite into green chili. Not me. So, all right. So now I am ready to eat. So typically what we do is you're just like anybody else. You know, you would add some dal to your rice and and then, oh, by the way, water is the beverage of choice with the meals. Indians always drink water with their meals. So start with a sip of water. All right, so just gonna mix two, just put a little teeny bit of yogurt. It has a cooling effect, the yogurt, and you can do soy yogurt or skip yogurt, like I said. All right, here we go. I wish you were here so you could taste it, enjoy. And for recipes, of course, they will be linked to this video. You can also visit my website. Hope you'll sign up for my blog, Cooking with Madhu. Talk to you later.
Thank you so much, Chef Gadia. That looked really incredible. And I can see that we have many questions from our audience coming in. So at this time, I will ask you to turn your camera on and we can start going through the audience questions and comments.
I'm not able to turn my video. Okay, start my, now I can. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for watching this. I had a fun doing it, and I want to thank Sarah. First of all, I want to thank Hannah for editing the video. Thank you so much. It was great.
Thank you so much for demonstrating that. It looked wonderful, and we all learned so much. There are so many questions in. Our first one is, are red lentils the same as pink lentils? And if you could only find red lentils, would that be a good substitute?
Red lentils, pink lentils, some people call them salmon lentils, salmon colored lentils. They're all the same. They're just called different names depending on where you are. And, you know, they all come from a brown lentil. When you husk it, you get pink lentils / any other color.
Great.
Named color.
Our next question is about cumin. So we kind of have a two-part question here. Could you use cumin powder if you don't have the seeds? And if you don't have cumin at all, is there another spice you could use?
Cumin is an essential, if you're going to cook more Indian dishes, I'd recommend you get cumin. You can use cumin powder, by the way, but just remember it's going to burn really fast. So you maybe don't want your oil to be so hot when you put it in. Just lightly heat the oil, put the cumin powder in because that'll lightly roast it, and then start adding your spices. The important thing is to not burn these spices. You want them to just slightly roast. That adds an extra flavor to the seasoning. That's why the seasoning is done at the end, because you're enhancing the flavors of all the spices.
That's great. Our next question is about, if you aren't able to find fresh tomatoes this time of year, could you use a canned tomato?
Absolutely. Just don't add too many. And I'd probably pick finely chopped tomatoes versus really big chunks. And if you don't even have that, you can put a little tomato sauce in it. It all works, and I've done them all. Depends on what you have.
That's great when a recipe is adaptable like that.
Oh, absolutely. You just like that flavor of the tomatoes. Adds the little sourness to the dal too.
Oh, yum. People are commenting, I'm already hungry.
I know that we wish we were there and everybody could taste it, right?
Someone is asking about your spice box. Could you tell us more about the spice box and what you keep in there and why you use the box?
Okay, first of all, after this video, if you go to my website, there is a video called, on the video tab, find a video called Introduction to Indian Spices. So you can just watch me use the spice box, okay? Or what's in it and why we use it. It's much more in detail, but basically it's always a spice box is very common in Indian households because, we're constantly adding spices. So in order to add those spices, you want to have them handy, not have to open each bottle or, it's always handy because those are the 7 things that spices and salt. So 7th is the salt because I don't want to have to open a salt container. So I always keep salt in the center, but there is cumin seeds, brown mustard seeds. Make sure you use brown mustard seeds and not yellow mustard seeds. That's another thing you'd want to go buy from somewhere because yellow mustard seeds don't have the same flavor as the brown mustard seeds. Brown mustard seeds are more, smoky flavor. And then you want cayenne for the heat, coriander powder or ground coriander, and what am I missing? And garam masala is what I have. But you can always add turmeric, salt, cayenne, coriander powder are a must in your spice box. So those are the 5 that are a must. And then you add the other 2, whatever you want. Never put asafoetida in your spice box. It's too pungent. I often don't put garam masala. I go back and forth because garam masala is also very potent and I want to keep that potency and I don't want it to be open. So that's why I keep it in a separate bottle. But garam masala is my 7th one. So you do want 5 for sure, and then you can pick 2 that you like.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. And if people wanted to find that, that would be at cuisineofindia.com?
Yes, go to cuisineofindia.com. Under the videos, there's Introduction to Spices.
Great. Our next question is about the frozen spinach alternative. Would you defrost the spinach first or add it in while it's frozen?
Either way, I think I've probably done it all. There was a time, there are 2 kids at home, you just did whatever works really fast. But the problem is if it's a block, now it also comes in a bag, right? So it's more loose and more separated, but a block it's going to take forever to thaw. So I go ahead and defrost it in the microwave, break it into little chunks, and then put it in. It totally works. Don't worry about the liquid. It'll just, if you're having it in a nice fry pan, it'll evaporate. But if or likely just drain the liquid. Either way works. You'll have to try it. But if you can just use the one that's already not in a block, you'll have better luck with that. I like that new style of frozen spinach.
Great. We have a question about the rice. Could you use another kind of rice or maybe a whole grain rice?
Absolutely. You can use any rice, that you like. A white rice just goes really well with the dal and it just absorbs the flavor. And you can of course use long grain rice, jasmine rice, and basmati rice. But the reason I wash the basmati rice is because I buy it from an Indian grocery store and it is not pre-washed. A lot of this basmati rice you're going to buy in an American store grocery store is gonna be a pre-washed. And it doesn't turn out as long as the ones from Indian grocery stores. So the one I'm showing you was from an Indian grocery store. Do you see how long it was? It's as an amazing fragrance when it's cooking.
Yeah. Lots of people were saying they wish they were there. They could taste it.
Me too.
A lot of people are commenting about how balanced this meal seems and how fresh it is. And fellow registered dietitians on this webinar. So could you talk about your experience as a dietitian and how that informs how you build a meal like this?
You know, this is a very traditional meal, a very, what we call an everyday meal, comfort foods, because dal, the beans are, especially the yellow beans, are very, or any beans, I guess, any dal is very comforting to us. And adding a vegetable is something that is done majority of the time. So what I built today was called a thali meal. So if you've ever been to an Indian restaurant, they have what they call a thali, Thali. And thali meal is very balanced. So this is how we grew up, you know, eating rice, rice with dal, and even if you had meat, you might still have dal with it, and a vegetable. And the crudité is just added for the crunch, and yogurt is always there. So traditionally, this is how we eat. You know, we get away from it because we get in a hurry, but traditionally, that's a thali meal, which is very balanced. Indian meals, if planned properly, just like any other meal, are very nutritious and very low fat. You know, there was such a little amount of fat in the spinach and potatoes, so little fat in the beans. There was no cream. I didn't delete anything. I just added less oil. And with the modern non-stick pans, you don't need so much oil, you know, so it's very balanced, yes. And it's very low calories, just because.
We have many, many questions about the asafoetida powder.
Oh, absolutely.
I'll one is where could you find it? And the second question is, if you can, I know you said it's very strong, but people are wondering, could you just...
I didn't hear the last question.
People are wondering if you could kind of describe what it tastes like.
Oh my gosh, you don't want to taste it. Okay, it's very pungent. The main reason we use asafoetida is because of the flatulence. Okay, it reduces the gas. And anything that's cruciferous in the terms of like, we'll add it to cauliflower, and I guess we're picky. I don't ever add it to cabbage, but I will add it to cauliflower and all the beans. It's really, people add it in other things too, but you need to put it in oil to kind of bring out its effectiveness. You can buy it from an Indian grocery store. The asafoetida I'm using here is actually a blend of asafoetida and I think rice flour or something so that it flows. The asafoetida that I have gotten from India is just a piece of rock, and then you break it into tiny pieces. You can definitely leave it out. It's called a stinky spice. I have read about it in some history book, how it was stinky spice, and some woman used it and her husband put it on her neck and have him travel so no animals would come near it. So always keep it closed in your drawer. And when I bring it from India, I keep it in 3 different boxes so my clothes don't smell like asafoetida. So because that's real asafoetida and it's very pungent. I'd recommend you get some. I'm sure, I don't even know, I didn't check. I bet Amazon now has it, or any other Indian grocery store. Just buy the smallest one you can. Oh, I didn't check again, but maybe a co-op store which has all the spices, like, oh, I bet they would. Places like that have spices. Use very little, it goes a long way, and it does its job. If you use too much, it'll make your food bitter, by the way. And you will smell it. It's like, oh, put too much asafoetida. It's, by the way, in Hindi, it's called hing, H-I-N-G. So somebody might just say, well, I don't have asafoetida, but they got hing because they don't know the difference.
Oh, wow, thank you. We have many questions about substitution, so maybe we can do a couple of substitution questions.
Sure.
Could you use a potato instead of a white potato in the spinach and potatoes?
Can you use what?
A sweet potato?
No. I think sweet potato and spinach would, I guess I've never tried it. Let me rephrase that. I think, but you can use less potatoes if you're afraid that you don't want to put potatoes, or just make it with spinach, you know, if you want to leave out the potato, because sweetness will change the flavor of that dish. So.
And speaking of the spinach, there's a question about using kale or collard greens in place of spinach.
It would taste different, but why not? I think it would be worth a try. Yeah, I would say it's worth a try. Collard greens are treated a little differently. With kale, I might just add a teeny bit more oil to it because it needs a little bit more coating. But I would say yes, that would work. Great. I just make different things out of those. I just don't put it in my spinach and potato dish, but it can certainly be substituted. Yes.
Oh, that's great to know. One more substitution. If you didn't have ghee, could you use olive oil instead of the vegetable oil?
You know, olive oil, I tend to don't use too much in Indian dishes. I know some of my friends are starting to use it. I like to use canola oil because it has just as nutritionally, I feel it's just as nutritionally unsaturated and good for you and has very little flavor. Okay, so I use only canola oil, but people are using all kinds of oil. And olive oil, of course, is the oil of choice these days. But, and again, it's such a small amount, it may not matter. Oh, somebody just said Amazon has asafoetida. That's pretty cool. How much is it? $12.95? Is that what it said? Oh, two. It should not cost you more than $4.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah.
We have a question on those special occasions where you might have dessert. Could you tell us about Indian desserts?
Oh my God, Indian love dessert. We have a whole array of desserts, and it's totally different than Western desserts. They're not baked. That brings me to the point that I use this stove that's got 4 burners on it. That's our typical way of cooking. Stoves didn't exist. Of course, everybody's baking these days, but stoves are not traditionally Indian. So all desserts in India are stovetop. So we got halwas, which are like, you think of halwa as Middle Eastern, like sesame seed halwa, H-A-L-W-A. We have cream of wheat halwa, we have carrot halwa. And oh my gosh, the number of halwas just goes on. Then we have what's called mithai, M-I-T-H-A-I, which has laddus and barfis and all done on stovetop, either fried or roasted. And I don't even know how to tell you that it's so different. Barfis are like fudge. And gulab jamun, if you've been to Indian restaurants, they'd have gulab jamuns, which are fried and then put in syrup. So I have to say, Indians love I would say, they would say, what am I saying? Indians believe in eat your dessert first. So it was, when I was growing up, I went to a wedding and they would start with, this is when I was much younger, and they would serve with 5 desserts. So yes, desserts are huge in India.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah, can't go wrong with dessert.
People who have raised some concerns about arsenic in rice. And is that ever something that you worry about as you prepare dishes with rice?
You know, I don't, in the sense of, from what I know, brown rice has more than even the white rice. And so everything in moderation. And I'm not sure where to buy rice without arsenic and or with zero arsenic. And I know a whole population, half of the world grew up on rice. You know, all of your Asia, Indians, Eastern Indians, and all your Chinese, and you know, so many people just grow up on rice. So I don't know what to say about arsenic, except I do know that brown rice has more, a little more than even the white rice. So it's moderation. Yes.
Yep.
And of course, if you don't want to use it, use quinoa. My brother-in-law is starting to use quinoa with his dal. And it's not my choice, but you know.
Oh, great. There are so many whole grain
The
options.
other grains, yes, yes,
Wonderful.
yes.
I think we have time for just one more question. Someone is wondering, what kind of knife do you use?
My knives were gone for sharpening. So the big Sudoku knife that I had, that's what I was using. But I do have a chef's knife that I like to cut everything with. But it's just one of those things that I had in a drawer that was big enough that would cut fast.
Perfect.
Yes.
Great. And a lot of people are asking for your website and recipes and how to spell ingredients. So we'll just remind everyone that you'll have all this information in your email after the demo.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that wonderful demo and for answering all our questions. And at this time, I'd like to invite Sarah Bear Sennett, who is the president of Oldways, to give some concluding remarks today.
Thank you, everyone, for having me.
Oh, thank you so much, Madhu, for sharing your knowledge, your enthusiasm, and your expertise. It all fits so beautifully with Oldways' mission of helping people live healthier, happier lives through cultural food traditions like your own. And if you want to see more of Madhu, and I think it sounds like many of you do, Oldways will have a webinar next Thursday, December 10th at 2 p.m. with Madhu. It's called Curry, Dal, and Ghee, Meeting the Needs of Indian Patients. And while it's December 10 at 2 o'clock, and while it's targeted towards dietitians, and they receive continuing ed credits, it's perfect for everyone else. So if you go to the events page on the Oldways site, you can sign up. It's oldwayspt.org and look for the events. And as always, so many thanks to Barbara Talalian of the Armenian Heritage Foundation, sponsor of the Armenian Heritage Park on the Greenway. And you have that amazing event, I think it's the 16th of December, in the maze on the park. It looks like such a great tradition and able to be socially distanced. And also to Andrea Burns, Director of Age Friendly Boston in the Boston Mayor's Office. We're so proud at Oldways and so pleased to partner with both of you on this series of heritage cooking classes. Thank you to Hannah, as always, for coordinating everything so beautifully. And we hope you'll join us in 2 weeks for our next class, December 16th. It will feature dessert, getting ready for holidays, from Chef Nathan Kibarian, pastry chef at Island Creek Oyster Bar and chef owner of Desserts by Nathan. And as always, it's hosted by Oldways with Age Friendly Boston and Friends of the Armenian Heritage Park on the Greenway. Thank you all for joining us. Be well, be safe, and we hope to see you in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, for having me. Thank you so much.
Oh, Madhu, it's great. And we'll see you next Thursday.
Yes, we'll see you then. Thank
All right.
you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Yes, bye.